Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
My good man, beautiful.
Thank you, sir.
Yesterday I was doing some ohms.
Yeah,
So would you want to do some with me?
I'd be glad to.
Let me start out.
Sure.
See if my voice doesn't crack, but who cares? Om. Om. Oh God.
Did you feel it?
Oh, swear to Christ, I did. Tell you what, brother.
We need to talk about chance because people want to think we're insane.
Crazy. Can I throw something in there real quick before you say something? First of all, my brother here has been doing some chants for quite some time. So yesterday, actually last night, I haven't really done any. I've made up a couple of chants, but I really didn't take them too seriously yet. But yesterday, I done the whole Om thing, and I done it while on the great holy plant of cannabis. And brother, I told you this earlier. I got so crazily out there that I got so high, and I was on a very small amount of cannabis. This took me to such over the edge that I was thinking, wait a minute, I better quit chanting because
it made you so high.
It made me so high that I was like scared.
I've had identical experiences. I've heard people like Duncan Trussell talk about this. I fucking talk about him so much. I just love him. But
great guy.
I've heard him talk about this so much. Like smoking cannabis and doing chants is like a classic thing. Like,
I didn't even know
because it works so well. Like that sounds from the outside like such a hippie like bullshit thing to do, but
when you get into the car and you start pushing these different buttons and you see what's it hits hard.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's think about it. Like, what could possibly be going on during these chants? Why are they effective? Is it an actual like that God actually put into this reality? If a person makes these noises, I will come to them. Yeah. Is it that? That's kind of the more out there version, or is it just this?
And that itself would seem like a thought that I would have coming from cannabis.
Right. Yeah, you'll consider those types of thoughts.
I had a cannabis experience the other day.
Cannabis makes things so real. It really lifts the veil.
Oh my gosh! I've realized recently how much can be gained through its use. And
it gives you thoughts that you would just never.
What I'm going to start doing differently, brother, is writing down these cannabis thoughts because for the fuck of me, that's a funny way to say it, but yeah, for the fuck of me, I cannot fucking bring it to the goddamn back here.
Yeah.
And on my way down here, I was actually thinking, okay, what was that really revelational thought that I had on cannabis?
That sucks, man.
But you know what? I think it was something
the more complex, the more brilliant the idea, the easier it's such a way.
Oh, yeah.
Like as soon as you have a light bulb, you gotta focus, dude. It's hard though.
I took me a kratom ceremony the other night. Like 2-ish in the morning, and I went to sleep, and I woke up, dude, just raised right up, and I said, oh God, I gotta contact you because I had something very insane figured out. And then I was like, I'll tell him in the morning. I laid back down a few minutes later. I was like, wait, what was I going to say?
You know what that's called an Einsteinian thought. Referring to Einstein because he's brilliant, obviously. Like
He
like
used to
that
have stuff like that a lot.
mushrooms will give you that. Well, I'm sure he did.
That's what they call it.
Yeah, but they call it that. But oh my God, Cameron. I mean, on psilocybin, you know, you'll literally like you'll be like contacting all of these like this information that's literally breaking your concept of reality. Like
Yeah.
you're receiving this information and that you've never considered before, and it's like, oh my God. I remember one trip I had in particular on psilocybin mushrooms. I took 5 grams and I had a rough time. I had a real rough time that night. And I was kind of disappointed in my reaction to it. You know, it completely ripped me apart, which is okay. You need to be ripped apart sometimes. But I don't think I reacted to it very well.
I've done that too with cannabis. I've been
You can do
so
it with cannabis,
fucking
too.
mad at myself
Yeah.
for
It's like,
how
man, I
reacted.
wasted this opportunity,
I
you
did,
know? So I
because-
literally went and I bought more mushrooms the next night. And I redosed 5 grams. Now, when you do this, your tolerance is already really high. Like you gotta wait long.
Did you still
mushroom.
hit you hard?
It's so weird, dude. If you take a high dose, people don't talk about this because hardly anybody probably does this because
Yeah.
it's not really great to do this.
Yeah.
Like when you take a high dose and then take another high dose like the next day, dude, it is so different.
Now, in a scary way, does it like slap you in the face and say, "Who do you think you are?"
No, I
getting into these realms again.
I literally had this terrible trip. Okay, so the first night it was like I think it was a Friday night. I had a bad trip. Next night, I did it again, and my girlfriend, she was working at the vet clinic. She was not here the whole night. So I was just by myself in the apartment, and dude, this trip was unlike any trip I've ever had. I took 5 grams again, and it was all like. I remember thinking to myself, "Oh my God! Like if I could just do this like once a week."
You would have.
I could literally do anything. Like Ringo, I was literally like uncovering the mysteries of the universe. I was literally pacing and just like bomb after bomb after bomb dropping on me, dude. I mean, it happens like always, but like this particular trip, I was figuring out things about my personality that was toxic that I didn't even realize. Not only that, but I was also thinking about cosmic things. And I was thinking about I was having just revelation after revelation.
It hit you with all one.
Jesus, it hits so different when you do it like that.
You know, man, these states of consciousness, whether it's on the extreme side of something as psilocybin, or if it's something on still a much needed revelation, but a little bit smaller if it comes from kratom or cannabis or kava. We need these experiences. You know, sometimes with cannabis, it can while bombarding your mind with these revelational revelations, it's still, you know, trying to fix certain parts of you. And you want to, if somebody wants to say there's no such thing as magic, why is it that plants that are demonized, it just seems a bit weird that they are the plants that want to fix you.
Yes.
And it's also a bit weird that these are the plants that want to show you things that nobody else talks about. It will break you away from possibly a religion that you grew up around. It will break you away from the culture that has
It'll break you away from wanting to be a mindless drone.
Funny.
Working 9 to 5. No
It will
problem.
point out that that's not the work that's important, but as we like to call it, as Crawley called it, and I'm sure many others did, the great work. He made abracadabra. He says, when going after the great work. Yeah, like you said, is it the Magnus Opus?
I think so.
Yeah, I've heard that term.
Or Magnum
Opus, yeah. But when you start taking these plants and you start having these and I'm talking about, and you know what? I hope that, you know, the few animal friends that happen to come across this video don't think that this is an exaggeration of I've had like one revelation after another with the sacred plant of cannabis, with kava, my God, and, you know, with kratom, and, you know, all these things that we're taught from a very young age, and these things that culture and capitalism throws on us. We think that this is the way life is supposed to be. life is supposed to be enjoyed to the most measure. This is at least what I've gotten out of my recent research.
Like we're so uncomfortable being human. Most of us are. I mean, maybe we've made a little progress on this, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that people are still uncomfortable being who they are. And we still are so hung up as a
By the way,
society.
even people just say a musician, they feel like they have to be a certain way. But look at the guy that you just showed me. I love this guy.
Chapa?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can tell that this guy, by the way, a metal band.
Amazing sludge
This
metal.
gentleman right here, all of the band actually, you can tell they're not trying to imitate anybody.
No.
That's what I've really came to love about that band.
Me
They're
too.
being
I
their.
sense something that's similar to what we
I do sense something. It can be a great many of things, whether it's some suppressed anger
Yeah.
for the state of society right now, and it's something a lot more deeper, spiritual, mystical. I mean, there's something to that band. It does, it pushes these certain buttons and receptors as something such as cannabis. And by the way, we was watching an interview by him, and this amazing gentleman happens to be a huge fan of edibles, so he's got something great going for him just
Yeah.
for that.
He said, this is a band called Chapile we're talking about. It's a band I've been loving recently. One of their quotes is that they're trying to capture the anxiety
Yeah.
of watching the world fall apart. That was,
Oh yeah.
and you could totally
You can
hear
feel
that,
it. You can hear
the
it.
dementedness and the anger. I mean,
Something
this
that
society creates crazy people. Nietzsche said, the most dangerous person is the working man.
Oh yeah.
He's the most suppressed person.
Yep.
He's the most bottled up.
You take
inside.
somebody, working, I don't know, 6 days a week. They're unhappy. They're not getting to see their family. Their family life's falling apart.
I mean, I look at the people that I work with.
Yeah.
I work way more hours than I would like to.
And way more hours than what the general person does work.
You're
Now
right.
with me, at the moment I am working a lot less, and I'm happy with that.
I would be if I could. Yeah.
But in his situation, there's
but I still prioritize.
You still make. That's what I love
magnum
so much.
opus over.
Do you
any
think
of
anybody else that you work with, would be focusing a little bit of free time that they have to be looking into the great work? Because it's easy to get caught up. Look, these companies, whatever it is, they it's just the way it is. Every place is like this. You are a slave to that company. They think that they have you by the fucking balls as long as you're making your goddamn car payment and your house, your mortgage bills. But that and look, people might be kept occupied by working. Just say, I got a 50-cent raise coming up. I have a dollar raise. I got to keep this. They love me.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That's a trap. But that's just one of them. Fucking millions.
So think about this. You come from a family that didn't really show you very much love.
That feels like
so
love.
you get. Nietzsche also talked about this, and I'm not totally all in on everything Nietzsche said, but I do love Nietzsche.
But he does bring up a lot of amazing points.
And he talked about how they give you small rewards incrementally, and that keeps you just focused and zoned into that.
Another thing is the way things are set up with these jobs. I have worked jobs in the past that drug tested for cannabis. And now
I've come to the conclusion I won't work anywhere.
That's what I want to say. Cannabis, kratom, these plants are so fucking important. I don't care what nobody says. These things are the high gods. These things have God's thumbprint.
Well, it's plants are the 3D manifestation of the goddess. I mean, there's a deity called Gaia. Gaia is the goddess of the earth. The vegetable goddess, and shamans and pagans have always seen plants as a way of connecting to the goddess. And we all come from the goddess. And the goddess is the source of life.
I've realized that I'm not going to be employed somewhere that that's just another thing that's awful convenient. You know how you know it in I feel like for the most part, not really. You know, there's a lot of people that hate cannabis, but it has grown to be more accepted. Still not as accepted as alcohol is, nowhere near that, obviously.
Which is so mind-boggling.
And look, let's just be honest here. People think that if somebody who's dishing out these different SSRIs to people, look, those people that are think that that's the god, that's what's saving me. I would just love for these people to
really experience the completeness,
kava.
the completeness that these plants can provide you.
Do kava. Man.
Dude, I want to talk about this, dude.
Do talk about it. I'm rambling right now.
No, you're fine.
You go right ahead. I just got a lot to say.
But about
actually.
kava, I haven't. I've known about kava for a long time, about as long as I've known about kratom, and I honestly overlooked it a little bit.
Me too.
Because it's not sold in smoke shops.
Now, I actually tried kratom first, but I just want to say real quick that I knew about kava before kratom, and the only reason why I did before I started taking kratom, I would drink some coffee, I would smoke some cigars, and I would read some poetry by Leicester Crowley when I first started.
Way to spend your time.
Yeah, and I remember, and I later forgotten about it, and I rediscovered it. I was like, what is this kava ceremony in which he speaks of?
You heard him talking about kava, yeah.
And I knew it was...
Yeah, Crowley does talk about kava.
But, sorry about that, you go ahead,
totally
man.
Fine. We're both very passionate about this stuff, and I'm having a great time with you, brother.
I'm having a great time, brother.
Yeah, kava, what's so unbelievably amazing is, I'm going to give you guys a little chemistry, not lesson, because I'm not that smart to give you a lesson on it, but I'll give you an idea.
We're not psych substance, but we're us.
So, a drug that's popular and prescribed often, as an example, is Xanax. Xanax is in the benzodiazepine drug class. Benzos are used to treat anxiety mostly, panic disorders, and I think even sleep. But that's even mind-blowing that they would prescribe Xanax for sleep because it's so dangerous. But so the Xanax is less toxic than alcohol. But they both of those drugs, alcohol and Xanax, both affect your GABA receptors in your brain, and your GABA has to do with regulating anxiety. So when you take a Xanax, you have anxiety relief because it's affecting your GABA. Alcohol is the same way. That's why people's inhibitions get lowered, because when you're in this less anxiety state, then you're not going to be anxious about doing something rowdy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because part of your brain has been basically kind of shut down. So, but there's a very dangerous aspect to GABA drugs, GABAergic substances. And I'm not here to shit on GABA substances. I mean, people got to use what they have to do, to get through this life. But it's really, to me, it seems like a crazy thing to prescribe Xanax often or to drink often because, first of all, the addiction is really bad. And the reason that it's really bad is because it's very hard to get off of it. So if you're addicted to alcohol, you can't just stop cold turkey. You can die. I mean, if you're, I don't know, not super deep into your alcoholism, maybe you could cold turkey and be all right. Well, you can have, it's literally a medical term. It's called, I think it's called delirium tremors. And it's these seizures you have when you withdraw from alcohol. Amy Winehouse died of alcohol withdrawal. It can kill you. So you gotta be very careful with these GABA substances. I've used a substance called phenibut before, and I've never used phenibut more than once every couple months or 3 months because I'll tell you why. Because any of these GABA substances create what's called kindling, and kindling is something that happens when you take a GABA substance fairly frequently. So if you're drinking once every 3 months,
Yeah.
you're not going to get kindling. If you take phenibut once every 3 months, you're not going to get kindling.
Oh, and as you was telling me the other day, let's throw this in there just in case you forget somebody may say, "Well, I don't experience this at the moment because they're younger." But as you get older, I
yeah,
throw that in there.
with the hangovers. So with alcohol, people say, "Oh, I don't get hangovers." They might be 22 years old.
Exactly.
The reason for this is because of this kindling that I'm talking about. So kindling. So if you drink or you take a GABA substance, say once a week, every time you take it, your GABA, your brain does not respond well to having all this GABA. It just doesn't, and it's always trying to like get it out and it's trying to deal with it, and it creates kindling. And so every time you use it, you will have a worse and worse what's called a rebound. So if you're using a GABA substance to help your anxiety, if you use it too frequently, it's going to make your anxiety come back worse and worse and worse. So it's very problematic in that way, and also the hangovers are worse and worse. So it's extremely, you gotta be very careful with GABA substances. Now, what makes kava very special is, as far as my research is concerned, as far as my experience is concerned, kava does not seem to cause kindling, but it also affects GABA.
And after learning on all these other substances that can cause such problematic issues,
neurological damage,
this is proof what a fucking magical plant this is.
Kava is really a miracle plant.
Oh my god, dude, it really is.
There's not really an addiction. There's not really a physical addiction.
Thank God you brought that up, because before turning this camera on, I said to myself, I'm going to say it, but I've already forgotten.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm glad I brought it up. But
I literally had that in my mind, yeah.
Kava does not seem to be physically addictive, which is mind-blowing.
And,
so what we're saying is kava delivers a better euphoria to me than alcohol does.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't have any kindling. I have no rebound. When I come down from it, my anxiety goes back to baseline. It doesn't go below baseline.
I'd like to throw this out here really quick.
We got to be really careful. Like, if we're going to embark on a spirituality, dude, we're doing ourselves a disjustice by consuming toxic substances. Because, dude, we need to be at our optimal state to really think, we
really do,
and consider all the possibilities and to logically look at our own lives, while simultaneously, this is where the plants come in important. Like, when you're in this toxic society, you need something to touch base with, and whether it's a religious practice or a plant that's allowing you to touch base with this type of consciousness that's not present in our modern society.
I love what you brought up. We was having a conversation the other day, and we was talking about things such as kava, kratom, and cannabis, the classics of our spiritual journey. And we talked about, if you compare any one of those to just say alcohol, I love the way you worded this. Just say somebody's an alcoholic, they're destroying their body, they're shutting down their third eye, and it's really bad that, and it's, and you really just want to blame the circumstances of the culture and what's available.
But you know what, dude? The individual. What do you do with people that don't realize yet?
I don't know, man.
Because that's the thing. Like, alcohol is legal. That must mean that somebody out there has done the research. So it must be better than all the ones that are illegal. That could not be farther from the truth. And that's what's scary. You have to first come to the conclusion that your culture lies to you.
A lot of people that I have met at the workplace or otherwise, alcohol has seemed to be a very like the main drug of choice that they do.
Real quick interjection.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Do you remember? I'm not gonna say his name, but I worked with someone that used alcohol frequently. I don't work with him anymore, and he has already totaled 2 of his cars.
Now, is this by any chance the tall boy guy?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Cameron. And this is very scary, but Cameron, he's already totaled 2 of his cars, and just yesterday totaled a third one. And he also fractured his spine. You should see the picture, dude. I'll show it to you later.
Yeah,
if it's still on
that's
his
very
drive.
sad though,
Very
man.
sad.
You
And
know,
he drinks and drives. And dude, I've told him before. I swear to God, I've told him before.
no, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I would get mad at him because he would be coming into work and bragging about drinking and driving.
Look,
I'm
that's
like,
nothing to brag about, man.
dude, go kill yourself at home. That's
Yeah.
up to you. But don't, I don't want. Imagine somebody's kid out driving and you kill them because you're a fucking idiot.
You know, when people do these decisions and they take it upon themselves to believe that they can operate a automobile.
And that's literally everybody knows. Me and you, we're not on alcohol.
It's the most selfish
We're
thing.
not on alcohol right now, and we both know, and anybody that's not on alcohol, and especially if you've experienced it before, knows how ridiculous it would be to get behind a wheel when you're drunk. But when you're on it, alcohol lies to you. The alcohol is an ego inflator, not an ego deflator.
And that's kind of what I want to talk about. So I want to talk a little bit about, and it ties in with these plants such as kava, kratom, and cannabis. I was doing some reading on Aleister Crowley earlier, man. I already told you this, but I want to talk about it again. We need to find, and I'm talking about mankind in general, needs to find a balance. We need to feel good about things, but we also need to have what we consider this reality to be the ultimate illusion, the ultimate.
That's what the Buddha called it.
Yes,
the Maya.
This is
not real. This is not real.
Everything's a lie, from cinema to politics to sports. These things that are taking up our time is the biggest illusion of all.
Dude, when you're not hypnotized, okay?
When you break that, your life will change so quick.
Dude, when you are not hypnotized by your culture and then look at the culture,
it's so funny.
You literally are like,
dude,
wow. All these people walking around hypnotized, going shopping, spending their money,
it's
working.
Crazy.
Just not getting anywhere. Not eating real food for their soul.
It's crazy.
They're not getting any nutrition for their soul.
We live in a time right now to where everything is nasty. The food that's
filled with nitrates and toxins and heavy metals.
Everything. Look,
fake bioengineered ingredients.
Our water supply. It's not like back in the day to where you could just go skinny dipping anywhere you want to. I wouldn't want to go in water. Everything. Our creeks, our rivers. All this stuff, man, is toxic.
Think about this, Gaian.
And how has it gotten there? You may ask. Mankind. Has destroyed.
Yes, sir.
We are in the brink of realizing that we're an alcohol addict. Dude. And we're like, oh, my organs are failing right now. What can I do to save the earth? And the truth of the matter is it too late? As the great Timothy Leary once said, I don't want to hear it unless it has to do with going to another planet to start over.
Exactly.
Because he knew, as an amazing person who has experimented with various different psychedelics, the LSD.
He saw the writing on the wall.
He saw it, and he knew that the direction this was going. And you know what? Since he's been dead, it's only gotten so much worse.
Yes, sir. You made an amazing point. We are like, as a globe, as a world, we are the equivalent of a 40-year-old alcoholic.
Oh yeah.
Who has spent his whole life.
And then it hits you like a ton of bricks.
It hits you. Oh my God.
I have fucked myself.
Where's the brakes?
Exactly.
But you're already going a million miles an hour.
It's
like trying to. We're like a person trying to find the brakes.
Yeah.
Going a million miles an hour towards a wall.
Oh yeah, we're getting ready to hit that thing dead on, quick as possible. Splatter.
So what we're trying to bring to you guys' attention is, we need rapid transformation.
Yeah.
And what is going to be enough to create this rapid transformation? It's going to. I really do believe that it's going to have to be pharmacological. We're going to have to literally pharmacologically, deal and suppress with this monkey in our brains, that wants to control everything and.
You walk into a bookstore and you just see magazines everywhere about artificial intelligence, and it's caused a lot of attention. Everybody's on their channels talking about this, and this goes back to destroying the earth. Just because I forgot who it was that said it. You told me somebody said it, I can't remember. Somebody can do something doesn't mean it's right to do so. And dude, that's just the most beautiful wisdom. If you
Yeah.
could probably just say one thing to somebody, that might be where it's at. And that
Just
goes
because
with
you
our
can.
individual
Yeah.
lives as
Because
well.
humans, we have so many abilities.
We
So like the more capabilities you have as an animal, the more responsibility you have. It's like that fucking quote was power comes responsibility.
oh, it's so yeah,
It's so
perfect.
true. It's so true. I mean, the more power you got, the more dude.
Oh yeah,
If your consciousness is not growing at the same rate as your technological advancement, that's a recipe for disaster.
it's no good.
It's a recipe for disaster.
You might as well just
Dude,
crumble and throw it to the
there's
garbage.
theories out there that say that all across the universe there's scattered planets that are capable of housing life, and that every time think about this: if a nuclear bomb destroyed us all, the whole entire planet, not a human left, there would be rats in the sewers of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is alive. Dude, what if they evolve?
Yeah.
Think about this. We are monkey-based life. There are scientists.
It's just as likely.
There are scientists that say we come from what was that animal? It's kind of like a fucking groundhog or something, but that's like that's what we were.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about a rat, dude. Cameron, there are probably
now isn't where that.
What I'm saying is evolution can happen in any animal. Like cats could literally, in millions of years, and under the right circumstances, could evolve to where they're making AI.
Precisely.
So what I'm saying is, all across the universe, dude, there is probably life. There's probably metal life. Just the craziest things. Like we don't even know how crazy just biology can be.
Oh yeah.
But
it goes. There's no limit to how deep that motherfucker go. But yeah, I'll tell you what, brother. I skipped what I was going to say, and I'll go back to it real quick. So I was saying about I was reading some of Crowley's writings. He talks about so many things in his he calls it the diary.
Yes, sir.
So he talked about at a young age what man he would advise to do is to realize that this world that we live in, this flesh that we're in, we need to realize that we are going to have great suffering from a young age. Me and him are, decently young at the moment, so we don't deal with a lot of these horrible aches and pains that a lot of people just say may even use kratom for. It's another benefit that kratom can be used for.
Dude,
we're using it for the spiritual, a spiritual guide. As Terrence McKenna said, use these plants as guides.
Yeah, you don't want, and I'm not against like gurus and stuff. I really do think that there are people, real legit spirit. Like I do think that God comes to Earth in different forms to allow people to open their hearts. And there are definitely gurus out there, but you got to be very careful. You got to be very careful about accepting any person as a teacher. You're better off having a plant as a guide.
You're so right, man. The Beatles, they had a very bad time with the one that they went to. And I feel like for a certain amount of time that John Lennon, for example, kind of just made him want to leave the scene for a little bit of the great work.
Are you talking about...
he like a mystical god, a gentleman who was trying to give them... I really don't know exactly what happened, but a teacher.
Yeah.
And I feel like they had better results from their LSD.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, would you want to talk for a minute? I'm going to run to the restroom, and then maybe when I come back, I can talk a little bit, and we could take a little turn out. The Koofy has made me have to go pee very quickly. I'll be back in a second, brother.
All right. But the Beatles, they changed so much from their early works to what they eventually grew into. And me and my brother have been huge Beatles fans for so long, and I think that, like my brother said, Maharishi, he was the guy that the Beatles went to see in India. So the Beatles got to this point where, they were kind of jaded by the music industry, and kind of jaded by having everything they want, but still feeling a type of emptiness inside. And they were having experiences with LSD, and anybody that's had experiences with LSD knows that it will open you up to a whole world that you had not been seeing prior. And so they were having these experiences. They were saying, "Oh my God, the universe is alive. I'm literally a part of everything. I am literally just one of the most recent manifestations of the infinite." And so they went to India and they learned meditation and stuff. But the Maharishi guy kind of turned out to be kind of probably not a very genuine person. But that's why you gotta be careful to get into books. My method and your method.
Yes.
Our method for searching, soul searching, and searching spiritually is using plants as guides
And these plants
and
will
using
lead
intuition.
you
Yeah.
to
Oh my
who
God.
you need to research.
Yes. Like I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita. That's been insane, dude. I mean, I don't think I would be reading that if it wasn't for psychedelics.
I couldn't agree more. I was thinking the other day, a lot of these holy plants, and that's what I call them. Just say we're about to do a kratom ceremony. We'll often refer to it as, okay, let's get the sacred plant out, and we're getting ready to take it because I
Right.
swear to you, with everything in me, that these plants, they are holy.
They are.
They are.
No doubt about it in my mind, brother.
We are right now. We're in a game to where we know we're going to lose. Once the unknown hand comes in from the divine and knocks over the king on the chessboard, the pieces are not going to be set up again on here, unless it's reincarnation, obviously.
Right.
But that shouldn't be something that we want to
Right.
continue reincarnating in this game.
Like the idea that there's literally no escape. Like this tiger has you. Like we are like we have things that we're all going to have to deal with. And so like this notion of killing yourself or or trying to avoid the hard questions is vain, because I mean, if you accept the model of reincarnation, then that says that you have work to do and you will continue to come back to do it until you start to awaken. But when you do awaken, that is ecstasy. That is the most beautiful experience. Oh my God, this is not me.
Yeah.
And here I was living my whole life thinking that little old me was going to be dead in a little while. No, you're literally the infinite poking its head into what you call, Johnny or whatever.
I want to brag really quick about this gentleman right here, what he written about very recently, and I'd like to talk about it. So we will often have, as long as you open yourself, you will have these. If you go into it with an open heart and an open mind, no matter how cheesy that sounds, you will, these spiritual realms will bestow upon you revelations after revelations. Go into it in a humble fashion. To put it much simpler than that, I wouldn't know how to put it. But he wrote something down the other day that stuck with me for the past couple of days. I've thought about it a lot off and on, and I haven't even told you about this, I don't think. But it was something along the lines of, we should be as idle as possible when communicating with our fellow man, to make sure we don't do anything wrong, because this stuff could cause karma. We already have enough we're probably working out right now. That's so wise to say that.
To think about this, it makes sense though from a logical perspective too.
And when you do, try to be positive. Don't fucking put people down, even though you don't disagree.
Literally, it takes coming to the realization that this petty argument or whatever is not like this is ridiculous to get so upset about something like that.
I gotta say something funny. I just gotta talk to you about this this literal argument between two people the other day that I won't talk about. But these people, so this gentleman walked up to this woman and said, just randomly, it's so funny, if Jesus Christ was here today, instead of riding a donkey or mule or horse, whatever he rode, do you think he would ride a Harley Davidson?
Oh my God.
And the woman got infuriated and started shouting, saying, that's counting as blaspheming. That's so disrespectful. You're saying that about our Creator, that he would right, I just said, but he has long hair and a long beard. I can see him on it, and they have.
Jesus is a hippie, man.
It's stuff like that. That's just one example of some of the crazy things I've heard. And look, we talk about this a lot. The Bible, well, he's probably studied it more than me because of when homeschool and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah, I had a Christian homeschool.
But anyway, there's some points that it makes that there's some profound things to be in it. Every documents of anything ancient, you will most likely bring something back with
Right.
it.
Because what's really interesting about observing anything ancient is you're looking. Obviously, there's translation distortion,
Yeah.
but you're getting a little bit of an insight into how people thought back then.
Yeah.
How people thought without the internet.
Now, let me tell you what I think, brother, real quick.
Deep, yeah.
I believe that these, we'll just say the ancient druids. I'll just throw them out there. These people were a lot more informed back then, what I gather, than us having the internet.
Well, let's think about this. What would, when you take psilocybin mushrooms, a lot of us that's taken it say that it's like an internet. Because you can literally, I swear to Krishna that I am not joking about this, that if you're on a sufficiently high dose of psilocybin, you can close your eyes and you can say, kitty cat. And you will, in your mind, see cats. All kinds of different cats. Cute cats, cartoon cats, realistic cats.
You have actually, truthfully, experienced the traveling through. There's no time. There's no space.
I've had the experience where
infinity,
there was no time, no space. I was outside
astro
of time.
projection on roids at the
Dude, like literally, when I come down from that intensive experience, it's like I'm slowly coming back into time.
Cool,
Cameron, it's unbelievable. I mean, these things will literally connect you to hyperspace.
Yeah, and as he's explained before, the fucking stuff you will see. One that I love the term as well, hyperdimensional insects.
Yeah.
Now that's something that just has always stuck with me.
That's one of the entities that I've seen the most and remember the most.
And I've recently been really doing a very deep dive into all of these psychedelics and what they do for you, and whether it's psilocybin, DMT, DXM, even high doses of edibles, at least for me, has been, all of these, they present something so different. I like how
they're different
psilocybin
coordinate points on the grid of consciousness. Think about that. All of these compounds, these psychedelic compounds, are all compounds really are different. They're different coordinate points on the grid of consciousness. So you can take a substance and it delivers you to a certain one.
The truth of the matter is,
some of them are more useful than others.
We're into this game right now. Very limited time. The game has a timer on it, and you never know when it's going to go off.
What a crazy game that is, dude.
And see, we have to. The game is to
solve the puzzle.
Before going into this, we can't remember, but there's going to be this thing called capitalism and culture that is going to be lying to you.
Yeah, it's going to be sucking you in. It's going to be creating technology.
Now it's going to
suck you in.
It's going to tell you that these plants are evil. But
the very thing that caused us to be human in the first place.
If you take these plants, then you will start your journey back to here. You will be there.
Born again. I literally like compare the experience of psychedelic, like mushrooms. The first time I took 5 grams of mushrooms, the only way I could say it was I've been reborn.
Yeah.
I swear, that's exactly my words. I have been reborn.
I can remember, and I'll just tell my point of view of it real quick. I remember the evening that he came to visit me after his first psilocybin mushroom experience, and I remember it was like talking to a different person. It was it was as if, as he just talked about being reborn, he was very emotional. Um, sensitive to light, sensitive to loud noises. I remember a ambulance drove by and it really bothered his ears. And I remember the first thing he said, he was in tears and he was like, this is where it's at. This I just experienced God. And if you read reports about these any type of really psychedelic, whether it's LSD, psilocybin, but you you I mean, somebody who hasn't really, dabbled into that, I think, well, what do you mean see God? I mean, that is a strange way to, present that. Um, but with for example, my first true cannabis experience was with edibles. And I remember I took half of what I originally did and I didn't feel anything. Not yet, but when I was eating the other portion is when I started, and it hit me hard.
Classic.
And this is what Crawley talked about, and this all ties in. I just like to drag things on very long because I have so much to say about these things, but it breaks this illusion. Cannabis has for sure done that to me. It has broke this illusion.
Yeah. Sometimes you come crashing down on your face.
And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. This was a strange place for me when I was on it, but I've never been the same since. And I've done more edible experience.
I felt so bad about that, man, because I should have known better, man. Because look,
no,
I wasn't.
I'm so happy that you gave me that.
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier because I made lifestyle changes that I needed to make. If you wouldn't have done that, I could have had to deal with even more karma.
You're true.
I had to change things that I knew that I was doing. Yeah. Obviously, we won't go into details about these things, but yeah, we all have things that I'm not saying now I'm all perfect. At least,
we brought that to your attention, and that's the first step.
We learn from mistakes to fix them, and then we make more mistakes. We fix them. That's just part of this existence.
You know what Ram Dass says? He says you go on, you make another mistake, and then you look back sheepishly at God, and you try again, or something like that.
And we all have times to where, things here get us really down, and we're like, God hates me. I've even said that before. Like, why does God hate me so much? Or why does the universe hate me so much, And we have to remind ourselves that and look, I came to this revelation yesterday, actually. Truly came to this revelation. Somebody that, I'm not saying, obviously, that we should want to die, really soon.
Oh, about that, brother.
Yep, I'll get it, brother.
Sorry about that.
But we should know that we are, in a very short time, get as most out of this as we can, focus on what's important, surround yourself with the few individuals, hopefully you have a few individuals that you can truly connect to, no judgment, open up, because we have to open up. There's so many people who, and I know one person in particular, who I don't think could ever open up to anybody, somebody, very close to us.
Yes.
This gentleman, he, I don't think he's ever opened up. Somebody who has always been so attached to their body. And
dude, you will suffer the most. And this is literally the essence of Buddhism. Buddhism says that suffering is caused by attachment. That this world is the Maya. It's the illusion. It is not real. So by being attached to it, we suffer.
Mm-hmm.
If we're dying, if we have a disease, and you in your mind think that this is all you are. Yeah, it's going to be a terrifying thought.
I want to say this too. We was talking about this earlier, and I think this is something that I want to start telling people whenever I get the chance to. Just say that you wake up one cloudy morning and think, I'm not happy with the way life is, the same mundane work, scrolling through videos and sending them to other people. It's just this absurd, random, weird videos.
Absurd, dopamine fueled, video
we've
content.
never had like social media. We've always enjoyed YouTube. We feel that there's a great many of important things we can learn on YouTube.
And something that's different about YouTube is, I mean, obviously there is an algorithm and stuff, but you can, you can literally just look for something. I mean, that's the main way I use it is, I just type in McKenna, I'll listen to some McKenna, or instead of just getting on it and just consuming whatever's there.
A gentleman that I recently started to get into, and I haven't even had a chance to talk to you about this yet today. A beautiful man, gentleman by the name of Alan Watts.
Oh, I love him so.
And speaking of plants can sometimes shatter what you think reality is. That's exactly what he can do with his talks.
Yes. Dude, I've had some unbelievable revelations listening to
him along with Ram Dass. They are the most genuine people you will ever listen to.
When I'm at work, and sometimes
I can cry right now. How much I love both of those guys so much.
Cried,
I love them.
Oh my God,
them are beautiful. I would love for them guys to just appear right here,
dude,
and I'll say I love you.
Can I tell you something crazy?
Yeah.
Okay. Duncan Trussell?
Yes, sir.
He said he literally had a video call with Ram Dass.
Oh God.
Can you believe that?
That is insanity. Is it before he died, or way before that, or?
It was not way before, but
I bet they got along good. They clicked good.
Yep. You know what he told him? He said Duncan said that he told him a mantra that he had been doing, which was I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. That's what you are deep down.
We are.
Behind your flesh, behind all your ego and your DNA, and your
behind
genetics,
this tough man, personality that
deep down, and the philosophical debate on whether we're in hell or whether we're in heaven or we're in some kind of nihilistic universe. When you take psychedelics, you take mushrooms, for example, you come into contact with something. I come into contact with something, and I've heard a lot of people describe it like this, that just feels like pure love. And let's talk about that. Why is it that when the veil was stripped back, I'm filled with complete love? Because it's pointed out to me. It's not like you take mushrooms and you just automatically feel complete love.
Yeah.
It's also showed me, some of the terrible things that go on. But it's like it will point out to you, like, look, the fundamental basis of reality is love.
Any religion.
That's what God is. And dude, and that's okay. So God, the more that we increase our consciousness, by whatever means, the more we increase our consciousness, the more we become like God. So if by that way of thinking, you could say that God is highest consciousness. Okay? What makes someone rape somebody? What makes someone, trade in, their eternal life for a few years of indulgence? Low consciousness does. Low consciousness creates, creates people that do terrible things. If you had a higher consciousness, you wouldn't be doing this. So you could say that love is the highest consciousness, and love is God. Do you see what I did there?
We need to be very concerned with that, man.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So if your God is not representing pure love, then I think it might be.
Yeah.
If your God says, if you stick your wiener in another guy's butthole, you're going to get tortured for eternity. So you're telling me that being gay, that actually loving another person is bad?
It's gotten beyond so twisted. And over the years, it keeps getting passed down, and it's now we're left with this. I feel like the guy
Dude,
of the
we've
song.
literally inherited a
I don't want it,
mess.
but here it is.
Yep.
I
Time
mean,
bomb.
we really have. We've inherited a mess, and you know what?
Ooh.
Oh God, let's talk about Crawley again.
Okay.
Crawley, he talked about it, man.
I know we did.
There comes a few people who look at the same patterns that are going on everywhere. Those people are generally trampled over by the rest of the herd.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't like to say this about him because they want to point that evil Satanist pagan. Oh Lord, he done drugs.
How could you declare that when you've never?
He has to be evil because he took hashish. He smoked opium. Evil, horrible. And you know what? What he preached was, if any religion is not first and foremost love, then it's false. But when talking about religions, it just seems like that's something that's not. It's actually what I feel is more of a judgment. A lot of religions are not showing this so-called unconditional love in which we should all try to bring forth one another, not just us, but other animals as well. Insects, trees, grass, rocks. I remember even being at a young age, and to this day, if I was to come across a situation about what I'm getting ready to explain, I'm still deeply disturbed. Somebody torturing an insect. Not that makes me so enraged and feel so bad that talk about low consciousness.
Yeah.
And we know somebody, you know what, that has done this and sent this video out.
Thinking it's funny.
And you know what?
So.
When I saw this, I literally, the person who showed me, I made sure to put the point across how upset I was at this situation.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like,
I thought about it the other day, actually, strangely.
yeah, you know, like you made a great point,
Get
Cameron.
something real quick, I'll let you.
Yeah, you made a very good point. You know, and you know, anything that has a consciousness at all, you know, we should be very careful. You know how we treat these things, whether they're plants or animals or insects. You know, what is consciousness? It's one of the greatest mysteries we know of, consciousness. You know, I like to think of consciousness as, you know, reality is held together by consciousness, and consciousness is, you know, basically what's called in Hinduism Brahman, and we all deep down are Brahman. You know, we're all a single thing that's manifested itself and multiplicity. So that's a very interesting thought, you know. So that bug you stepped on is also Brahman. You are Brahman, you know, your soul.
You know, brother, at the end of the day, somebody stepping on a bug is also going to bring forth karma. You know,
Yeah.
we're dealing, look, a lot of these so-called leaders of the world who are the most heartless and ungenuine people that could possibly, they're not leaders.
No.
Despite what anybody says, they are not leaders, and I do not consider them the leaders. In fact, individualism is what I would love to see more people go into. This so-called politics, whether it's Democrat, Republican, all these people are rich, know-it-all bastards who's never smoked any cannabis, has never taken any kratom.
and so arrest people for it, like Obama.
Oh, exactly. Or
Clinton. He said he had a puff, but he didn't inhale it.
Those people. Oh, you know what?
You know what Obama said? He said, I smoked a little weed and did a little below. That's what Obama said. Did a little below. Cocaine. I swear to God, that's what he said. I was listening to an old Rogan
Oh.
episode to talk about that.
Just like how last year, cocaine was found in the White House. 3 minutes later, it was never heard of again.
No, they would be, dude. I got pulled over one time and I had some coke on me, and they were looking every way. They knew I was doing something. They was looking every way to get me, man.
Let's talk about this. These, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Any police officer who would arrest somebody over cannabis, fuck you, pig. That's the truth.
You know they got a big hard on by arresting some young person.
We have to, and I love this. I'm stealing this from you, brother. We have to call something a big pile of horse manure shit whenever we have to, because that's one example that's just completely.
That is one of the biggest crimes there is, man. The fact that people have went to jail for 10 years or more for cannabis in the past. That's insanity. It literally does no harm.
Yeah. And these plants, as we talk about a lot, and you know what? We can't talk about it enough because we can speak from
much experience.
Much experience that they have done nothing but provide us with the knowledge and the tools that we need
to connect us to the Gaian mind of consciousness.
To connect to the place we need to be at. And then you know what? That also plugged in to other great information, having an open mind, letting the, as we call it, the spiritual world guide us, then you will actually... Okay, let's just say this, for example, and this is something that's this kind of conversation, I guess you could call it risky, because people is going to just look at this automatically. Some people will anyway, and just say, oh, that gentleman is just absolutely crazy. But, that's okay. I'll take the risk.
Yeah.
Let's just take synchronicities, for example. Let's just use numbers. There's many more synchronicities that can happen. You could be thinking of someone and you see them later. I could be getting ready to text him a certain word, but he sends it before I do. This happens all the time. Well, I have been doing things a little bit differently. I've been calling upon this spiritual world, calling upon the divine, the name doesn't matter. And I'll say, look, send more things my way if it's you. I've been doing this recently, but I've been getting bombarded.
Yeah.
I've been seeing numbers. And it's gotten double, triple what it was before that.
You know a prayer that I like to say all the time?
Mm-hmm.
May my body be an aperture for the manifestation of highest consciousness. May my body be an aperture for God himself to manifest through.
Oh, another point we want to make, me and him, as I was saying that he done a writing the other day that I loved so much. I meant to say this, but I forgot. We actually want to say anything that we write, draw, or say isn't us. That's so fucking egotistical and stupid. Like it could be the kratom that we take, and this holy plant is what's giving us the thought process in which you need to get there to go through it.
Right. It's not easy to get into what people call a flow state.
Yeah.
A flow state is just like, you're just moment to moment. You're just connecting. It can increase that.
When we get together and get one of those started.
Yes, sir.
It's so amazing. But yeah, man, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or you think we've rambled enough for this possible time?
I think we've touched on some pretty awesome things, to be honest.
I've enjoyed this so much.
I've enjoyed the fuck out of it.
And, yeah, hopefully the couple of animal friends who watch this will maybe
find some thought provocation.
Hey, because that's what we're here for. We're here to try to inspire each other in some way, form, or fashion.
Me and you are just like anybody else watching this, we're all trapped in this 3D dimension and have questions and concerns.
I just want to say this. May we, as Aleister Crowley said, and I'm going to get all horny on this because, yes, I love his quotes and I love his poetry, so fuck it. May we harness the lightning for hire, for man is the Lord of his spirit. Seriously, that's all that matters. Everything else doesn't matter. Harnessing the light for higher, getting to these spiritual places, figuring this out.
It's the only thing
Come
that
join
matters.
us to figure this out.
Exactly.
Seriously, right?
For real.
But yeah, that's all I got to say.
Hare Krishna. I hope everyone
Hare Krishna.
has an amazing time, whatever you're doing and wherever you're at. Hare Krishna.
Bye.